gentleman, that his key, the key that is described, that opens so many scriptures. And what a job his life has done of teaching us how to control ourselves, how to react to the statements and Word of God, laying a foundation to bring you peace of mind. We come to chapter 27 in 1 Samuel, and what a lesson we're going to learn here if we're fortunate. That is to say, you're fortunate if you do understand it, and in its simplicity, I know you won't have any problems with it. David has learned how to deal with discerning spirits, the negative spirit that entered Saul. And he learned how he should not lose his temper or murder a bunch of people in a rage of temper. And has done real good. Saul, a second time, David spared his life, knowing that God himself would take Saul when God was ready. And lo and behold, you remember the first mistake David made? The time he went down to the Philistines, right into the very city of Gath, where that city that Goliath was from, and he had slain their champion. He's going to do it again. Going to do it again. Let's read this 27th chapter and the first verse as we ask a word of wisdom from our Father that we be able to absorb that He would have us know from this word. So with that groundwork having been laid, 27 verse 1, 1 Samuel. And David said in his heart, it's his mind, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines, the enemies of Israel. And Saul shall despair of me. He'll get tired of looking for me to seek me any more in any coast of Israel. So shall I escape out of his hand. Now, where did David go wrong there? He said, in his heart, in his very mind, it wasn't his imagination, he was serious. This comes from his mind. There's nothing better that if he doesn't run, Saul's going to kill him. Now, what had God promised him? God had promised him and had already anointed him through Samuel, who is now dead, that he would be the next king of Israel. Understand, God made the statement, you will replace Saul. And from David's mind, he's saying, if I don't run, Saul will kill me. Now, it is true that we're supposed to use common sense, but to go into a heathenistic society, to the enemy of Israel, seeking aid, a place void of God, and outside, this is the important thing, and outside the counsel of God. So many people cannot be patient and wait on the Lord. They got to do it themselves. They've got to do something themselves. And rightfully so. It had been, how long has David been out there? A couple of years or more, running around in the wilderness, playing hide and seek with Saul and his troops, trying to stay alive. I have no doubt that it brought a tremendous amount of anxiety upon him. But David, with the faith as a lad to march toward Goliath with a slingshot and to bring him down, and at the same time saying, God shall give him into my hand. The same individual with that faith would, in a moment of anguish, say, I'm tired of it, I'm getting out. Has that ever happened to you, dear one? That's the lesson you're going to learn in this, is what can happen to you. Oh, he'll pay for it here in a little bit. That's his error. And that's what God would have you learn from this chapter. Verse 2. And David arose, and he passed over with the 600 men that were with him unto Achish, the son of Maach, king of Gath. Again, the same individual that he had to pull the little feign insanity, so to even get away free. Same place, same location, same David, but with 600 followers, 3. And David dwelt with Achish at Gath. He accepted him. He and his men, every man with his household, even David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam, the Jezreelitist, and Abigail, the Carmelitist, Nabal's wife. The old boy that God had killed on David's behalf, whereby David did not have to kill him. Verse 4. And it was told Saul. Saul apparently had spies all over the place, or people trying to make points with him, that David was fled to Gath, and he sought no more again for him. Let him go. Well, in that sense that David wished to escape Israel, whereby he was no more appeared to be a challenge. And if a man is on an ego trip, it's real easy to say, he went to our enemies anyway. I told you that from the beginning. Verse 5, And David said unto Achish, If I have now found grace in thine eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there, for why should thy servant dwell in the royal city with thee? In other words, Saul he's compromising with the enemy. 6, fraternizing, whatever you wish to call it. Then Achish gave him Ziklag that day, wherefore Ziklag pertaineth unto the kings of Judah unto this day. In other words, what was Ziklag? Ziklag was originally given to Judah, and then it was given to Simeon. And now David of the Judaic line takes it back again. The city really belonged to them anyway. The Philistines had conquered it and possessed it. And now it was back in the hands of the tribe of Judah in David's hands. 7. And the time that David dwelt in the country of the Philistines was a full year and 4 months. Pretty good little haul. I suppose, in a way, he found peace there. But don't ever turn away from God and God's Word. If God has placed you in charge of a group of people such as Israel, don't abandon them and go to the enemy. The following could happen to you. Verse 8. And David and his men went up and invaded the Geshurites and the Jezrites and the Amalekites, for these nations were of old the inhabitants of the land, as thou goest to Shur, even unto the land of Egypt. He was fighting for the king of the Philistines. 9. And David smote the land and left, this is it, now sharpen up for me, he left neither man nor woman alive, and took away the sheep and the oxen and the asses and the camels and the apparel, and returned and came to Achish. Didn't go back to Ziklag. Went back to give the spoils. Now, sharpen up for me. Who was it that he fought against? The Geshurites, the Jezrites, and the Amalekites. Now listen to the story when he gets to Achish. 10. And Achish said, Whither have you made a road today? Road is an old Anglo-Saxon word that the Scottish say it better. Raid. Where did you raid today? And David said, Against the south of Judah. In other words, I fought with Judah. That's not who he fought with. He fought with the Amalekites. But he says to the south of Judah. And against the south of the Jerahmeelites. And against the south of the Kenites. I don't have to tell you who the Kenites are. That's the sons of Cain. He didn't fight there. That's not really a true story. In other words, he's even deceiving, understand, the king of the Philistines, Achish, making him think that he has turned on his own people and have done war with Judah, with Israel, better said. He's lying. And this is the hard part of it. Do you know why he didn't leave one man or one woman alive? Listen, it's recorded, verse 11. And David saved neither man nor woman alive to bring tidings to Gath. You understand what bringing tidings are? That's talk. Saying, lest they should tell on us, saying, so did David, and so will be his manner all the while he dwelleth in the country of the Philistines. He didn't fight his own kind, he killed us. All David brought was the spoils. In other words, he killed them so their mouths would be closed. And feigned or lied, maybe feign is too kind in this case. That's a poor excuse to kill every man, woman, and child, dear one. To bring about the pretense that you're a true friend of the enemy, conjuring up the fact that you had destroyed some of your own people so he would feel that indeed you were loyal. Oh, the stories had gone through the area that Saul was after David's life. I'm sure that the Philistines heard of it because they were very interested in David. And after all, if you were a heathen, a Philistine, and your champion had been killed by one, would you not like to have that one that was able to kill the champion of champions, Goliath, as your champion again? Of course you would, if he proved his loyalty. And if someone will draw blood from their own people, their own tribes, in what we might term a civil war or a war of hate, then they've proved their loyalty. But David didn't harm his own. He killed other people, the Amalekites and so forth, not his own. It's all a lie. What got him into this problem? By not trusting God. Had he known that God, if he would deliver Saul into his hands 2 times, that he wasn't about to let Saul kill him. The miracles that transpired that kept the two apart, that God would protect him. Oh no, he's got to run off down here, not trusting God, and now he's got himself in a fine fix. 12. And Achish believed David. He swallowed it, saying, he hath made his people Israel utterly to abhor him. Everybody hates a traitor. Therefore, he shall be my servant forever. I've got me a new champion. I've got me the champion that slew Goliath. No doubt, the anxiety of wishing that champion replaced by this champion caused him not to be as careful, perhaps, as he should have been, to find out that David was lying to him like a dog. What lesson should you learn from that? Well, this. Now, this king of the Philistines is going to demand, they're going to attack Judah. They're going to attack the house of Israel also. And he's going to expect his champion to produce. And because David did not believe upon the Lord his God, to the point, I have no doubt that David still believed. It was his patience that got him. The anxieties. That's what got David. He wanted to do something on his own just to speed things up a little bit. Well, he did. Beloved, be patient. God is calling forth a people that have a destiny. There's something to do just down the road a piece. Don't get in a hurry. Wait on the Lord. Do everything that you can in planting seeds and so forth. But the day will come when God will move. Chapter 28, verse 1. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare. Payday, friend. To fight with Israel. And Achish said unto David, Know thou assuredly that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men. You're going to get to go out and kill your own now, David, right beside me where I can observe it. And David said to Achish, Surely thou shalt know what thy servant can do. And Achish said to David, Therefore will I make thee keeper of mine head forever. Well, old Achish is putting his head in hands that are not loyal to him, all right? But David is living a lie. And again, he killed some people without the law actually backing him up, okay? He kind of took things into his own hand. Therefore, see what a mess he's got himself into. Because God had already promised him, I will give Saul into your hand. That is to say, I will take care of it myself, David. Okay, meanwhile, back at the ranch, verse 3. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him, and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. This, no doubt, was going back to his better days when he really served God. What are familiar spirits? This term, as it is used here in the Hebrew, means spirits that pretend to be the dead. That is to say, someone that has passed away. A spirit is familiar to you because they will conjure up and appear to be someone that's very close to you. And what's a wizard? That's one that's enlightened, but enlightened with evil spirits. Do you know how reincarnation started? By these familiar spirits. You see, reincarnation in reality is an abomination before God. It is given that everyone shall die one and one time only in the flesh. Incarnate, yes, a soul is placed into each flesh body, each embryo. But one time only. And these familiar spirits, they tried to conjure up, and of course they were evil spirits, and they usually knew the people that they were pretending to be, maybe better than some of them knew themselves. That's why that reincarnation works, because people cannot discern spirits. And when someone says, I was some other person 400 years ago, it simply means that one of these familiar spirits inhabited that same person. But friend, that person is dead and gone. The one 400 years ago is already back with the Father. I just thought I'd throw that in as we passed. Beware of people that teach familiar spirits. Verse 4. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together. And they pitched in Gilboa. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, host meaning the multitudes, he was afraid. And his heart greatly trembled. Now, you're down near Hebron here. You're down near Mount Tabor. And if you were to go to that place today and look out over that great valley between these two, you would find where this battle was, and very near the general direction of the battle with poor old David and Goliath before, and even on down to these last few centuries when even Napoleon fought the Battle of Mount Tabor in this same field. Same field. And you know something else? Within this same area is Megiddo, where that last and that final great battle will be fought. I say that because I think it's important that you understand and locate yourself to understand how important the type is set forth here within this battle. Verse 6 as we continue on. And when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. When Saul reached out and rent the mantle of Samuel, God left him. He has had commerce with evil spirits and enjoyed it. There comes a time, and this time for him, when he was chosen as a leader, to have God's help was past. God would not hear him. 7. And then said Saul unto his servants, Seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, But Saul, or behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor. Now you've all heard of the witch of Endor. I have a tape titled The Witch of Endor even. You've all heard of her. Endor meaning the fount or a door or dwelling. Fountain of the door of the dwelling. And Saul disguised himself, put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. He slipped in there, and he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. He can't get advice from God in any other way. At least he trusted one man. Though he didn't show it too much, he did. 9, and the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits, and the wizards, that is to say, the enlightened ones with the knowledge of good and evil, Satan's own, out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die? In other words, she's proving the fact that this isn't a conspiracy to accuse her as a witch. 10. And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, As the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. 11. Listen closely. And then said the woman, Who shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, Bring me up Samuel. Now you must remember, I want to just insert a thought or two before we take this next verse. You'll remember when Jesus walked the earth, as it is recorded in, Mark 3 and 4 chapters, that is, that when he came forth, these evil spirits jumped out and recognized him instantly as the Son of God. See, they're very intelligent. They are enlightened, because they are able to pass through the veil that human beings cannot, and have opportunity to gain that wealth of knowledge that is there, rather than a bunch of people that have only been born to woman for a period of a few years, 70 whatever before, and from an innocent babe gain knowledge for 70 years when they're thousands of years in remembrance. They knew. The familiar spirits, evil spirits, knew who Saul was, whether she did or not. And listen, verse 12. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spake to Saul, saying, Why hast thou deceived me? You see, the evil spirit told her who this was she was talking to. He told her it was Saul. For thou art Saul. Now, this is something you never want to sell short, friend. For there is the Holy Spirit, and there are messengers, both good and bad. But evil spirits are something you want to be very careful of. Indeed, indeed. In other words, I want you to grasp the ability they have to know more about a situation than you do. That's why it's dangerous to mess with them unless you know what you're doing. 13. And the king said unto her, Be not afraid. Now just settle down. Don't be afraid. For what sawest thou? What did you see? He knew that she had seen something supernatural because she recognized him instantly, or didn't recognize him. She was told, and he knew it. And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. Hey, they weren't good, friend. Saul is desperate. He's willing to listen to anything. If he can only have Samuel there, he knew that he could trust Samuel. 14. And he said unto her, What form is he of? That's to say Samuel. And she said, An old man cometh up. It wasn't, though, friend. It was gods. That's to say, evil spirits. And he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel. And he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. He had talked Samuel into relenting many times. And he no doubt truly thought that this was Samuel before him. I assure you it was not. 15. And Samuel said to Saul, Why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? What have you bothered my rest? Now, in the first place, you know that it is not Samuel, because Samuel was already with God. Samuel would not have been brought up. You understand? To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and God is departed from me, and answereth me no more, neither by prophets, nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known unto me what I shall do. You name it, I'll do it. He's desperate. 16. You know, I want to insert another thought here, too. It would seem that Saul, without encouragement, wasn't really all that brave a person. Let your mind run back a moment to the time that David went up against Goliath, when the whole army was frozen in place. It seemed like when there was a huge challenge that Saul was always just a little bit on the weak side. 16. Then said Samuel, Wherefore then dost thou ask of me, seeing the Lord is departed from thee and has become thine enemy? When God has become your adversary, why would you send for me, Samuel? Someone's having a little fun with this, aren't they? 17. And the Lord hath done to him as he spake by me, for the Lord hath rent the kingdom out of thine hand, and given it to thy neighbor, even to David. Of course, this was a well-known thing even by human beings in this area. Because thou obeyest not the voice of the Lord, nor executeth his furious wrath upon Amalek. Remember back, God said, Slay every man, woman, and child. And he brings back the king, Amalek. Therefore hath the Lord done this thing unto thee this day. 19. The moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with thee into the hand of the Philistines. And tomorrow shalt thou and thy sons be with me. That's Samuel saying, you're going to be dead, you and your sons. The Lord also shall deliver the host of Israel into the hand of the Philistines. Even being a evil spirit, from the mouth comes that shall happen, basically. 20. And then Saul fell straightway all along on the earth. He passed out instantly and was sore afraid because of the words of Samuel. And there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no bread all the day nor all the night. He was scared to death. His appetite was gone. Here you begin to see the message that God tried to get our people to see from the beginning. You don't want a human being to rule over you when you have me. And poor old David bit the same bullet when he couldn't be patient to wait for God after God had already spoken to him. 21. And the woman came unto Saul and saw that he was sore troubled, and said unto him, Behold, thine handmaid hath obeyed thy voice, and I have put my life in my hand, and have hearkened unto thy words which thou spakest unto me. I've done what you asked me to do. Now therefore I pray thee, hearken thou also unto the voice of thy handmaid, and let me set a morsel of bread before thee, and eat, that thou mayest have strength when thou goest on thy way. In other words, if you're going to die, let's get you out of here in good shape, all right? Think again of Saul's condition, 23. But he refused and said, I will not eat. But his servants together with the woman compelled him, and he hearkened unto their voice. So he arose from the earth and sat upon the bed. And the woman had a fat calf in the house, and she hasted and killed it, and took flour and kneaded it, and did bake unleavened bread thereof. Let's complete the chapter, 25. And she brought it before Saul and before his servants, and they did eat. Then they rose up and went away that night. What desperate shape the rulers of the nation Israel were that night, or the children of Israel, when their government was seeking advice of evil spirits. And I would ask you, what is new under the sun? We are fortunate in this nation, in this hemisphere, that we still have some in government that seek the true God for leadership, but some in ignorance seek familiar spirits, humanistic ideas instilled in the minds of men from the great universities that produce the electorates, those that enter the electorate, that is to say, filling their minds full of garbage instead of God's Word. Wise? Oh, yes, wisdom. You had the wise men right there, the enlightened ones. We still have them, friend. Again, there's nothing new under the sun. Well, we'll pick this up in the next lecture. I just thought I'd ask.